Good evening, everybody. Welcome to Spirit World Connections. My name is Donna Johnston, and this is my YouTube channel, Speaker Donna Johnston. Happy Wednesday to you. I hope everybody is doing well. In the preview for this coming podcast, I had said that we're going to be talking about energy. I'm calling it Energy Part 2. And like I had said in the last podcast, there's so many different directions we could go into when we're talking about energy. But before we get into tonight's discussion, I just want to address a couple of things that people have asked me about since the podcast last week. And someone asked me recently, what does it mean, if we gravitate towards a certain color? Let's say we like the color blue and we tend to wear blue. And when we wear blue, we feel better about ourselves, or we feel more within our own power. And, that can be a lot of different reasons. One could be, how does that color make you feel? Maybe that's a color that resonates with your spirit. It could also be that it's also linked to your spiritual family. If you remember in the other podcast, I talked about how we have we have our ancestral biological family, and we also have our spiritual family. And the spiritual family tends to dress a certain way. And when I've been able to connect with my spiritual family, they show themselves dressed very elaborately. Long gowns or cloaks, burgundy with gold, white with silver, or white with gold trim, very fancy. But so it could be, if you're gravitating towards a color, it could be a color that's very connected to your spiritual family as well. And then someone else asked me if the writing that I read at the end meant that big guy is with everybody. And, that's an interesting question, because initially I said, no, it's not about big guy being with everybody. However, when I was training under the Navajo medicine man, he used to say, I'm everywhere. And what that means is that in spirits, you can be here with someone, and you can be in a totally different country, in a totally different time zone, in a totally different element, and still be seeing what's happening here and happening in another location. So could it mean that he's with you? I mean, I don't think that's what he meant by it. I think what he meant by it was that, spirit is everywhere, right? And spirit, we all have spirits around us. And so our own spirit guides are there waiting for you. So that's how I interpret it. Everybody else has a different interpretation. So if you took something different from it, that's okay. It doesn't make one wrong and the other one right and one wrong. It just makes our views on it different, and that's okay. And also this past weekend, I sat down to do some painting. And whenever I paint, I just sit and I connect with spirit, and I ask to be shown, what to paint. And I never know how it's going to unfold. I never know necessarily who it's about or what it's about. So I just kind of go with it. But as I got into this painting, I realized that this painting is for someone that I have not met yet. And so I'm going to share it with you tonight, because I believe that whoever this painting is connected to, they're going to be hearing about it through someone who sees this podcast. Okay. So it's going to be kind of secondary. And so keep in mind, when I show you this painting, I'm not trained in artistry. And I will also tell you that the spirit that wants to connect with this woman did not want to show her face. So this painting does not actually depict what the person looks like physically. It's very much symbolic. So let's start with this. So what's important, I want to draw your attention to, let me see if I can do this the right way, is down in this corner, right here, you can see the outline of a woman. And this is the woman that the painting is intended for. She came out very organically when I was painting it. She has a son. She had a daughter that she lost. I'm not sure if that was an unexpected death, but she lost a daughter and then had another child afterwards. So she had 3 children. One is deceased, and that's the female. But I feel like the third child is also a daughter. So she has a son, she had a daughter who passed, and she has another child who I believe is a daughter. And she has a lot of sadness. about the loss for a child, as most of us would, right? I mean, this is your child. Um, and I feel like people have asked her, have you ever thought about talking to someone who's a psychic or a clairvoyant? And she's on the fence about it. But Big Guy says she won't be forever. Because I do feel like she needs to connect with the spirit of her child and also the woman who's walking with her in spirit. But she has a lot of sadness, a lot of questions about, this child that she lost. And right behind her, this golden color is this here is actually another spirit who's standing behind her. And then in the bigger picture of this, again, she looks kind of scary, so don't go by that. This V shape, and this is how the painting started. It started with this red V and then a blue one. This is a spirit who's standing in front of her. So this spirit is standing in front of these other spirits, and there's several spirits in this painting. And this necklace, and that's what this is here. This is a necklace, and it has what looks to be like almost like teeth or V-shaped triangles. And so this woman in spirit had something to do with triangles, whether she liked to collect things that were triangle shaped, but there's something to do with triangles. But this here is the necklace on the spirit who's in the front. And the necklace in some ways keeps the other spirits from coming forward because the teeth on this kind of block them. Okay, so it's a layer of protection from the spirit. And behind that is this other V shape. And that is another spirit who's in front of this other spirit. And then above that, where it gets tannish kind of colored, and there's like something looks like a mouth, there's another spirit. So the spirit that is attached to this woman is up here, but she does not want to show her face. And that's okay. A lot of times they don't. And this is her outline of her head, but behind there is some black hair. That's another spirit. And behind that is some brown, which is another spirit. So there's a lot of spiritual activity in this painting and a lot going on. But this woman who is connected to the woman who lost the daughter, this woman was very close to her. It could be a mother, it could be a grandmother, it could be an aunt, it could be a close friend, but they were very close. And she has a lot to say to her. She has a lot to say to this woman. And, but she didn't want to show herself. She did have a history of abuse with men. There were at least 2 men in her past who were not good to her. They were not very kind to her. And again, that's tied to the woman who's connected to the woman who lost the child. So if you know of anybody out there who this painting might be for, I'm offering a free reading to this person, to this woman who lost the child, because I feel like there's some healing that needs to be done there. And the spirit has brought them forward for a reason, obviously. So if you know who this might be for, feel free to pass on the information. Whoever it is meant for, if they reach out to me, I will know automatically because I'll just know the energy. But I just wanted to share that with everybody. And there's also a flower down here in the corner. And that's just showing just a lot of plant energy connected to this person over here, whether they plant flowers, whether they're very good with gardening. There's some sort of spiritual connection with flowers and Mother Earth for this person who lost a child. So, when we were talking about energy last week, it's interesting when I thought back on it afterwards, as I always like to reflect on what I shared, and I'll go back and I watch the videos just to see if did I cover everything I wanted to cover, because Shaman doesn't let me take notes. He also won't let me take a night off, but that's another subject for another day. But when I thought back on it, and I remember sharing with you the story about how when I was little, after a thunderstorm, I like to take off my clothes and run out and lay in the muddy water, right? Well, the area of the driveway, when it was a dirt driveway prior to it being paved, it was the area that I'm talking about. It's almost like a tire rut, right? So you think of it, it's kind of got that U shape to it a little bit. And I can remember fitting in it, so that's how little I was. So 2, 3, maybe 4 years old at the most. But I can remember, running out and sitting in that warm, muddy water in that little tiny hole and feeling like I was safe and protected and connected and happy and content. And when you think about that U shape, right? Think of it almost like a womb, where we came from, right? Water in a womb. And the water is something that's always been very grounding for me. I love to take baths. I love to soak in water. I like to be around the water. I'm very connected that way as well. But when you go back to that little girl sitting in the muddy water, just thinking this is the best thing ever, which it was at that time. When I think back on my childhood, I could honestly say there were very few moments of happiness. And there were very few moments of where I felt, you know, safe or connected. And when I was sitting in that muddy water, in that tire rut, was one of those places. Those are by far one of the most innocent memories that I have, and one of the most holistic experiences I had as a child. Um, so when I talk about how we are intrinsically connected, that's an example of how we as individuals are intrinsically connected. If you think back to when you were young, what kind of things did you gravitate towards? Where did you feel that peace, that wholeness, that connection, that comfort? Some people might find it in the woods. Some people might find it at a body of water, an ocean or a lake or a pond or a river or a creek or a stream. Some people might find it under the night sky in the darkness with the stars and the moon. Some people might find it with the sun. Some people might find it with plants. Everybody connects differently. But that's when I talk about, how we are connected in that way. For everybody, it comes through differently. And it's important for you to understand, how is it that you connect and what is it that helped form that when you were younger? And that intrinsic connection I'm talking about, it being inborn, it's innate. Like for me to, at 2, 3 years old, to take off my clothes and know that if I go sit in that muddy water, that I'm going to feel connected and whole. Today, at this age, I would not take my clothes off and go sit in a muddy pile of water because I'm concerned about bugs and snakes and things like that. At 2 or 3 years of age, I had the innocence to not worry about that or the awareness of it, right? But also, when we're talking about that connection, I want you to really think back on, your early childhood experiences and where did you find yourself? What kind of things made you feel peaceful, made you feel whole, made you feel connected? And, on the subject of energy, and I touched on this a little bit last week, um, and that is that, emotions carry energy. So when we talk about anger being an intense emotion, and you can feel it, if you're in a room of people who are arguing and fighting, you can't help but feel it. Why? Because the energy takes a different vibration to it. If someone is sad and crying, like at a funeral, the energy is heavier, right? If you're at a wedding and it's happy, the energy is going to be higher. The vibration is going to be higher. But I think what's interesting is that, you know, I work as a clinician, for my job. I'm a therapist. And so I spend kind of this reoccurring theme that plays out with some of my clients. And that is that attraction to what is familiar, right? So, and what it is that draw people into repetitive patterns of behavior or repetitive patterns of attraction to something that's familiar. So I want to talk a little bit about my relationship with my dad. I touched base quite a bit about my mom, but I want to talk a little bit about my dad. So my father, his parents, and my father and his family came over from Canada when my father was a year old. I am a first generation U.S. citizen on my dad's side. My dad was a naturalized citizen in the United States, and his family owned a farm, and they lived out in the middle of the boonies, folks. When I'm telling you middle of the boonies, I'm talking their driveway, I think was 2 or 3 miles long, just to get back to their property in the woods. And they had a beautiful old farmhouse. And my dad and his family lived on the farm, and my father had to work the farm, being one of the only boy in the family. He was required to work on the farm. That my dad knew everything and anything about plants and animals, everything and anything about plants and animals. He dropped out of high school. I want to say he was 16, I think, when he dropped out of high school. So he did not have a formal education, but he was no means a stupid man. As a child, I can remember watching him with his plants. So he would grow tomato plants. My mother would have flowers in the front, but really my dad took care of them more than my mother. And I can remember just watching him. And when my father was sober, he was a very quiet man. He was very quiet. He was a man of few words. When he was drinking, he had a lot to say. It was never good. It was obnoxious. But even though, he was quiet when he was sober, I was very afraid of him. From very little, I want to say 4 or 5 years of age, I developed a tremendous fear of him. And I'm not sure how that developed, but it did at one point. And that carried on throughout my lifetime with him, where I was very much afraid of him. He could be angry. He could be obnoxious. He could be very verbally abusive, psychologically abusive when he was drinking. But I can honestly say that when I look back on it, he was less physically abusive than my mother by far, and more predictable, actually, in his dysfunction than my mother. But why am I sharing this with you? I'm sharing this with you because growing up with him as my father, I learned to connect with his energy. So when I say to you, I would watch him garden and he wouldn't tell me how he was doing it, I would just connect with his energy and understand how he was doing what he did. When he could connect with a dog, he didn't tell me about how he connected. He just did it. And I observed him. I became familiar with his energy when he was interacting with the dog or an animal. I also became very familiar with his energy when he was angry and when he was belligerent. And I also became very familiar with my mother's energy, which was anger or sadness. And I can recall a time when I was young, probably kindergarten age, where I was sitting at the kitchen table and my father had a family friend visiting. It was a Sunday morning. My father was hungover. I was just sitting beside him at the table, and I was wearing this little white dress that I loved, and it had a little print on it. I can't remember what it was, but it was a little white dress, and I loved wearing this dress. I used to call it my Cinderella dress. And totally unprovoked, my father picked up a glass of ice water and threw it in my face. He just, unprovoked. I wasn't doing anything wrong. I wasn't making any noise. I wasn't being rude. I wasn't being obnoxious. He threw it in my face. And I can remember being so taken off guard, so taken aback, and confused, right? Because why was he doing that to me? Why did he do that to me? I wasn't doing anything wrong. And I can remember his friend saying to him, "What the hell did you do that for? She wasn't doing anything wrong." And he called my father a miserable SOB. I'll never forget it. He stuck up, the man stuck up for my father's friend, stuck up for me that day. And I can remember going into the closet where there was a laundry basket and standing in there and being soaked in water and being cold. And my mother opening the closet door saying, "What are you doing in here?" And I said, Daddy threw water on me. And changing my clothes, but being very upset and very distraught and incredibly confused. So again, going back to that, why am I sharing this with you? It's that vibrational energy that we become accustomed to. And when we become adults and we seek out relationships, It's the energy that pulls us in. So it won't surprise you to know that my ex-husband threw a glass of ice water in my face when we were married, towards the end of our marriage. Replica of my dad? Yes. Why? Because of the vibrational energy of my ex-husband was very much like the vibrational energy of my mother and my father. Now, science will look at this and say, well, that has to do with the trauma, and the brain remembers trauma. And, that's how our brains are wired when we're being raised by parents and all that. And there's a lot of truth to that. There's a lot of science behind showing that the brain doesn't forget trauma, store it in the back of the brain. We get triggered and then we get flooded. Very familiar with PTSD. However, that frequency of energy, that vibrational energy, we very much as kids come in tune with that, and we learn from that energy. And that is the familiarity. I can't tell you how many times I have been in session with somebody who has said to me, I thought I resolved the stuff that happened in my childhood. How did I end up in another abusive relationship? I thought that I'd done all the work that I needed to do. How did I get back in this place? It's because of the vibrational energy that if that's what pulls you in, it feels familiar. And because it feels familiar, it feels safe, right? But it's not necessarily safe if they're engaging in domestic violence or doing things to hurt you. So I wanted to share that with you because it's important for us to remember vibrational energies and how we're drawn to them based upon our experiences. And until you become familiar with that vibrational energy, you're going to continue to do the same thing over and over and over. You have to recognize the energy and in those interactions with somebody in order to break free of it and to correct it and to move on. Do you have any questions at this point? I just want to ask before I go any further. And just kind of bring this back around full circle. I've shared with you, that I love to garden, and I have many plants. I don't even know how many plants I've got this year. More than I expected to have. But that is how I connect. One of my ways that I connect with spirit is through gardening. And I have an amazing green thumb. Where did I learn it? From my father. How did I learn it? Tuning into his vibrational energy when he was working with the plants. Because when my father was out in nature and connected, he was very grounded, very stable, whether he was in the woods, whether he was on the water, or whether he was gardening or with animals. That's when my dad was really connected. And that's just an example of how we learn by connecting with energy. Yes. So Maureen asked, so the energy we sense is on a subconscious level. Yes, that's what I'm talking about, Maureen. Great question. Thank you for asking that. Yes. So it's very subconscious. That vibrational energy that we become accustomed to is subconscious. It is not something you necessarily have an awareness of until you move it into that awareness, right? By recognizing that pattern. Great question. Thank you for asking that. Any other questions or comments? And for those of us who have had dysfunctional relationships, think back on that. Think back on the energy of those people, and how it ties back into your early childhood experiences with your own parents or whoever raised you. Any other thoughts or questions from anybody? So many of us are unaware of our energy in the energy fields and all the things that are around us that have energy. And, we become conditioned as we grow and evolve as little people into young adults to disconnect from our spirit. And our spirit is very aware of that energy source. It's very aware of the vibrational frequencies etc. I'll give you another example, and I think this is a pretty pretty good one. Um, in the house that I owned prior to moving here, I purchased it in 2014. It was after a divorce. I had to move out of my marital home. And so I purchased a house, and my partner, who died of cancer, was still alive at the time. And I had already had an offer in on a house that I was going to buy, and it fell through last minute. Big, big, big issue with the house. I couldn't go through with the financing it. And there were a lot of issues there at the house. So I had to buy another home. And I was under a time crunch. I had to be out of my marital home by January 15th, and it was now November. And I was quickly running out of time. So um, there was a house that came up on the market the day after the sale on the other house fell through. And my partner found it and he says, "Hey, let's go look at this." And I looked at it and I said, "It's ugly. I don't like it." He said, let's just go look at it. I said, "Okay." So the next day we go and we look at it. And I'm standing out front of this house. And I said to him, "I don't have a good feeling about this house. There's something not right here. There's just something not right. I just don't have a good feeling about this house." And he said, "Well, we can fix it up. We just have to get, the kids through high school and, we'll fix it up. It's in a nice location. It's a cul-de-sac. It's a dead end street. It's very quiet up here. It's kind of private. We'll fix it up and we'll sell it in 5 years and we'll move back to New York." And I can remember looking at him at the time, looking up at him because he was taller than me. And I can remember thinking to myself, how do I say no to him? Right? This is a man who's dying of cancer and he has a vision. He has hope for the future that we're going to be together another 5 years and he's going to fix this house up and we're going to sell it and move away. And this all sounds well and good, except I understood that he had terminal cancer and he was on a real short time frame. But for the life of me, I couldn't take that hope away from him. I just couldn't say to him, "You're not going to be here in 5 years. You're not going to, may not even be here next year." And I just couldn't do it. So against my better intuition, against that feeling of this is not a good thing, I went ahead and purchased the house. And he died the following December. So within 12 months of purchasing the house, he died. And this house needed a lot of work. I'm talking extensive renovations. And at the point that he died, the house was torn apart and we had, paneling off and sheetrocking that needed to be done and floors that had been ripped up. And after he died, I just slowly hired people to do the work as I could, and I fixed it up the best that I could. But throughout the time that I was there, I never felt like the energy was right. And no matter what I did, I could not get that vibrational energy to that house to feel right, to feel normal. And it was a very hard 9.5 years. I won't go into the details of every single thing that happened when I was there, but I can tell you it was an incredibly challenging 9.5 years. And I would say 9.5 years of hell because there was just so many issues with this house. And the more I worked on it, the more something else would happen, something else would break. I mean, I could go on and on and on about this house. But several years after owning it, a friend of mine told me that there used to be a spring at the top of the hill, just above where the house was located. And then a neighbor told me that there was a spring that ran through the center of that property. And the developer, for whatever reasons, was allowed by the town to pipe that spring underground across the roadway and dump it into the neighbor's backyard. And so when I found this out, I knew right away that's what was wrong. But that's what was affecting the energy of this house, right? You think of it, you've disrupted a natural water source, right? You have treated it poorly. You've not honored the spirit of the spring. You've not honored the spirit of the water or Mother Earth. You have channeled that underground and dumped it into a different area than where it would initially flow. And I can remember having a conversation with Gianni and saying, I think this is the problem. And he basically said, Donna, you need to get out of that house. You just need to sell it. You need to get out of there because there's some things that can't be corrected, and this cannot be corrected. So again, when we go back to energy and we talk about being intrinsically connected, right? That feeling that I had when I was standing in front of that house, I knew something there wasn't right, but I didn't know what it was. But that connection there was, it was an intense one. So I want to also talk to you a little bit about some grounding techniques. People ask me this a lot. How can I clean my energy field? How can I clear it or clean it? And what can I do to get grounded? So let's talk first about how to clear your energy field. And when we talk about your energy field, we're talking the same thing as aura, right? And remember last week I said your aura can change colors, the vibration, the frequency of it can change just based upon how you're feeling, illnesses, moods, people around you, etc. But I'm going to teach you a couple of techniques that you can practice anytime to help clear your energy field. So one of the things that you can do is when you're taking a shower and the water is running over your head, okay, I want you to say a prayer or words. You don't have to call it a prayer if you don't want to, or speak words to your higher power, whatever source that may be, and ask that higher power to come forward and to clear your energy field and to shine that golden white light from high above, right? We're talking about that high levels of the spirit world, that golden white light to be surrounding you and to be washing away any negative energy, all right? So you envision that golden white light coming over your crown chakra, over your head, and down around your entire body. And as it's doing that, it is removing any negative energy, and it's going to go down the drain. The water's going to wash it away. So that's one way of clearing your energy field. Another thing you can do is to go outside. To go outside barefoot, my favorite thing ever, other than the mud puddle, barefoot. I go barefoot all the time. So if you go outside and you take your shoes off, take your sandals off, take your socks off, and get the soles of your feet on the ground. And I want you, when you do this, to just stand firmly on the ground. And again, you're going to ask your higher spirit, your higher guides to come forward and to surround you in beautiful golden white light. And as you're doing that, I want you to envision, think of your feet as roots in a tree growing deep down. And as you're doing this, you're going to ask the Mother Earth to remove any negative energy and to clear out anything that you don't need to walk with anymore. And these, simple exercises can be just a few minutes. They don't have to be, 15 minutes, 20 minutes, half hour, an hour, just a few minutes to get yourself grounded. Also, sea salt, I spoke about this last week. Sea salt is great for grounding your energy. You can sprinkle some on the ground and put your feet in it and ask your spirit guides to come forward to allow that sea salt to remove any negative energy from you energetically, right? And allow that energy to just ask Mother Earth to absorb that negative energy and to take it away from you. And then there's also smudging. Smudging is a great way to clear your energy field, to clear any negative energy. You can do it. I have a shell that I use. This is an abalone shell. And here is sage. And, people ask me, how do you smudge? Well, there's not a right way or a wrong way to smudge. It's really more about the intention, right? So what I suggest to people is that you get some sage. You don't have to have a shell if you don't want to. They sell sage in bundles, but it's going to smoke a little bit like this. And then you can just wave it. You wave it around your doorways, go around, you trace the doorways, you trace the outline of your windows, your furniture where you're sitting, and then you can smudge yourself. And this gets a little tricky to teach without having someone here to demonstrate it on. But basically, you start at your heart chakra, always at your heart chakra, up, down to your heart chakra, and then you trace your body. Trace down your body. I go left arm, left side, left leg. You come back up to about the groin area, go back down your leg, come up the side, do your arm, and come back to the heart. And then you can fan some of the smoke over you. Now you can also do your backside if you're really well coordinated. You can also smudge your backside by smudging your legs and going up your back as well. And then bring it back to the front, heart centered, and use it to clear your energy around your face. So that's just a simple smudging technique, but it's great for clearing out negative energy. And the sea salt, like I said last week, you can use it around the perimeter of your bed. You can use it under furniture if you're having guests over and some of them have heavier energy. You can use it on your thresholds, across your doorways, or on your steps coming into the house. Any of your main entrances, you can use that and put it down, especially if you're having company or a lot of people in and out of your house. It helps ground their energy and protects your home. And then also you can use the wind. I spoke about this a little bit last week. But if you have a nice windy day, doesn't matter what time of year, but to go out and stand in the wind and open up your arms and spread your legs apart a little bit and put your arms straight out and allow the wind to carry away anything that you don't need. And that's all you have to do is talk to the spirit of the wind, ask the spirit of the wind to carry away anything you don't need. All right. And just stand out in that wind for a minute or two and let it clear you. And you will feel it. You will feel the difference when you do this. And if you don't have sage, you can use basil. I'm sorry, not basil. Bay leaves. You can use bay leaves to smudge with, which is also really good for clearing energy. And you can also use incense if you don't have any sage or you don't like the smell of it. Some people don't like the smell of it. You can use incense. And remember, it's the smoke that you're using, right? And it's the intention behind the clearing of the energy. Oh, Maureen wrote, I have Palo Santo sticks that I light and make a circle around my body. Yes, that's perfect. Thank you for sharing that. Yeah, Palo Santo is one that some people really like that as well. I don't work with that, but some people do like it. So that's really cool. Yeah. But again, it goes back to intention. So whenever you're smudging and clearing energy, remember it's about intentionality. And a couple other things I want to teach you before we wrap up. That is your own energy, how to work with your own energy. And so whenever you're doing energy work on yourself, first thing to remember is that you always want to clear your hands, all right? So what you do is you take your hands and you rub them together. And then you're going to take that energy, you're going to feel it's going to start to get warm, and you're going to throw it off to the side, throw it off to the side. And the reason why we do this is because we touch things that have energy, right? And if you're going to be giving energy to yourself or doing energy work on another person, you don't want that. So you want to take your hands, clear it, throw it away, throw it away. Okay. So just to give you an idea what energy is, if you take your hands and you rub them together, you're going to start feeling that heat coming in. And if you cup your hands together, you're going to start feeling that energy building in your hand. And what I'm going to make here is what we call an energy ball. I learned how to do this when I trained under the Navajo medicine man. So you have your hands clamped together like that. And if you just pull them apart a little bit, you can feel the heat between your two hands, right? That's energy. That's energy. And then you can just slowly allow it to open up. And then you give it to yourself. Okay? So let's do that again, but this time we're going to pick a color. So I'm going to go with pink. Remember, pink represents a soft love, a gentle love. So clear your hands, throw it away. And when you're throwing it away, do not throw it at someone. Make sure you're throwing it off to the side. You don't want that energy going at someone. Off to the side. All right, so we're going to go with pink. So rub your hands together. And I want you to start envisioning a very soft pink, like a baby pink, a very, very light, gentle pink color. And you cup your hands together. And I want you to start thinking about that little pink energy ball in your hand, right? You're holding it in between your hands right now. And then I want you to just slowly release. You're going to feel that heat, all right? I don't want you to release too quickly. You're going to feel that heat between your hands, right? That's energy. And I want you just to kind of slowly let it open up on its own. You're going to feel it just kind of organically grow. And then you're going to give it to yourself, feed it right to your heart chakra. That's one way of working with your own energy and grounding yourself, right? So you can use this to ground yourself. You can use this to calm yourself. You can do this for healing yourself. Also, if we go back to clearing your hands, throwing it away to the side. And when you're working with energy and colors, remember to keep light colors, light pink, light blue, light yellow, a really, really light green. If you're going to go into the greens, gold, white is good. So for this, because we're going to be working on your energy field, we're going to go with a white. So white light, high from above, symbolic of the Great Spirit and those who walk with us and guide us on the highest level of existence. So clear your hands. And I want you to imagine that white light coming through, filtering through your hands. You're going to rub your hands until you feel it, until you feel that heat building, until you feel the energy strong enough. And then you're going to take your hand over your shoulder and envision that white light coming out, and you're just going to come down your arm like this. And push the energy away, okay? And then you'll go to the other side, and you're going to come down that arm as well. And you push it out. You push it out when you come to the end. And then you can do that over your abdomen and down, your legs and down. You can do the back side of your legs, same thing. You're just using the energy to clear it, right? Using your hands and the energy of your hands to clear it. And those things will help clear your energy field and help get you grounded. Any questions at this point? Something else that you can do is you can buy sage, and you can get this. This is a white sage. Looks like this. You can buy sage, and what you can also do to clear your energy is you can boil it. You take it, you put it in some water, and you boil it, you steep it for about 5 minutes, and then you let that water cool off. And when you take a shower, you take that sage water and you pour it over your head and over your entire body. And that will also help clear your energy field. Any thoughts or questions? Now, I also want to mention that sometimes people work with crystals and stones. We've not gotten into a lot of that yet. I will in another podcast. But smoky quartz is great for grounding energy. And you can pair it with a rose quartz also for bringing in that love. Taking the smoky quartz takes away negative energy, and the rose quartz brings in love and a gentleness. So the smoky quartz takes away anything negative, and the rose quartz helps balance it by bringing in love and protection. So you can use stones like that. Clear quartz is great also for connecting intuitively. Amethyst is great too, but that's a much more intense love. So you can use crystals and stones as well. Any other thoughts or questions? Maureen wrote, the energy had a bit of a magnetic type of feeling. Yes, it will. It can feel that way. Yes, absolutely. Did you feel that it helped you though? Maureen said yes. Okay, great. Good. And you can practice these things every day. You don't have to, but you can. And I always tell people until you get familiar with them, it's good to practice them more frequently than not. So that they've just become kind of second nature. And again, it's a few minutes a day. You're taking a shower anyway, so do it when you're in the shower. If you're outside, gardening, do it when you're outside gardening. If it's a nice windy day, take advantage of it. If you're at the beach and it's a nice breeze, take advantage of it. Because all those things hold energy, and all those ways have energy to help us heal and to clear our energy fields. Any other thoughts or questions from anybody? Candles are also another way of helping ground energy. But I always tell people white candles, unscented. White, unscented candles are good for creating kind of a calmer vibration within a home or a space, and help reduce negative energy. And of course, the white candle is very symbolic of the Great Spirit and of the white light from high above. Any other thoughts or questions from anybody? And before we wrap up, I want to read you something from long ago, but I believe this is from 2020. And this was written by Big Guy. All my writing usually comes from him. Shadows are not what they appear. Illusions wreak havoc in the mind. Release your fears and join me on a voyage to self-awareness. History shows us what not to repeat. Sometimes life lessons run deep. Find the courage to change. Release what is no longer needed. Freedom awaits you. It is beckoning at your door. And those are words from Shaman himself. And before I wrap up for tonight, I just want to say a huge thank you to the people who have been following me consistently since I started this podcast. I'm not going to name names because of privacy, but you know who you are. And I just want to tell you from the bottom of my heart how much I appreciate you. And I want to thank you for all of your feedback, your comments, your questions, your participation, whether you've been able to participate when it's live or whether you've reached out to me after the fact. I just want you to know how much I appreciate you and your willingness to be here with me, to join me on this journey. I hope that you're learning something from this. That's my goal, is to help you to remember who you were before you were told who you are, and to help you get reconnected to your spirit or to understand your spirit in a much deeper way. So thank you from the bottom of my heart. I'm really honored to know of you, to be connected to you. And thank you. Thank you immensely. And Shaman thanks you as well. As I said to you last week, he's fascinated with this whole process. And he's so happy that I'm here every Wednesday night doing it. I had asked last week, can I take next Wednesday off? I mean, it's a holiday week. And he's like, no, you can't take a night off. No, you can't. But I know he's very happy about it. And my comfort level with it is coming along as we continue our week anyhow. So with that said, I will be back next week. Does anybody else have any questions or comments before we wrap up? And you're welcome, Maureen. I appreciate you being here. Any other questions or comments? If you're looking for information about the services that I offer, you can find them on my website, speakerdonnajohnston.com. I'm on Facebook, Speaker Donna Johnston. I'm on Instagram and TikTok at Speaker Donna Johnston as well. So, and you can reach me through email, speakerjohnston@gmail.com. And I hope that whoever this painting is meant for, I know it's eventually going to reach them. This woman here. On the side, say I keep doing it. This woman here, whoever she is, if you know who she is, feel free to pass it on. I'd love to do a reading for her and to connect with her and to share the painting with her. I hope you have a beautiful week. Practice some grounding techniques. I will be back next Wednesday night at 7 p.m. Stay in the light and stay connected. And have a beautiful evening, everybody.